Joe chats with Chase Hughes, an expert in influence and human behavior and author of notable works, who shares his insights on the psychology behind manipulation and social media dynamics. He discusses how societal narratives create beliefs and the emotional strategies used by platforms to engage users. Hughes also examines cult influences and the psychological tactics of persuasion, revealing how these can be repurposed for positive change. The conversation highlights the dark legacies of psychological operations and the complex dynamics of modern advertising that manipulate consumer behavior. The podcast begins with Hughes sharing his personal battle with temporal lobe epilepsy and temporal sclerosis, conditions that surfaced after his military retirement. These neurological issues cause seizures and memory loss. He faced these challenges while transitioning to civilian life. Initially prescribed medications that listed seizures as a side effect, an ironic and frustrating proposition, he rejected them and sought alternatives. His research led him to methylene blue, a compound dating back to the 1890s, known for its neuroprotective qualities. With a background in neuroscience from Harvard and Duke, he explored its mechanism. Methylene blue donates electrons to neuronal mitochondria, enhancing ATP production and reducing damaging free radicals. Taking 1 to 2 milligrams per kilogram daily, he experienced a cessation of seizures and improved cognition with minimal side effects like temporary blue urine. This was a pretty wild story, right off the bat, but speaks to Hughes' obsession with understanding the human brain. He later mentioned that he had a seizure the day before the podcast because he hadn't taken methylene blue in 3 days. Do your own due diligence. Ooh. Hughes' obsession with neuroscience and behavioral science started when he was young. He tells a funny story about how he was rejected by a girl while on his army base in Hawaii, and that led him down a rabbit hole of trying to understand human behavior. Why did she reject me, he thought. This curiosity matured into a career training military and government personnel in behavior modification and persuasion tactics. His expertise lies in identifying behavioral patterns to predict and influence actions. He explains that adult behavior, particularly in high-stakes or conflict situations, often mirrors childhood responses to needs like safety, friendship, and rewards. This foundational understanding of how early experiences shape lifelong decision-making and interactions is key to his work. While understanding childhood responses is helpful in understanding behavior, Hughes takes us much deeper into the art of persuasion based on human understanding. All groups, cults, governments, or marketers, manipulate behavior through identity alignment and social proof. He describes a technique where individuals are prompted to affirm an identity, like, "Are you someone who stands up for what's right?" locking them into predictable actions consistent with that self-image. To illustrate, he references the Milgram experiment, where participants obeyed authority to deliver perceived electric shocks, and the Ash conformity experiment, where group pressure swayed individuals to agree with incorrect answers. These studies reveal how external forces, authority figures or peer consensus, can override personal ethics or logic. These were really eerie stories. So understanding that there are childhood reaction behaviors that persist, and understanding that there are groups which can greatly influence an individual are foundational. Hughes then outlines 6 social needs: significance, acceptance, approval, intelligence, pity, and strength that drive human interactions. He cites a few examples. Someone boasting about accomplishments might crave significance, while another seeking sympathy might prioritize pity. By identifying these expressed needs, one can tailor communication to influence outcomes, a method he's applied in intelligence work, sales, and coaching. This dual approach, patterns and needs, forms a powerful tool for understanding and directing behavior. If you believe you can't be persuaded by these things, you are a suggestible person. As a certified hypnotist, Hughes explores hypnosis as a method to bypass conscious resistance and reprogram behavior. He details techniques like fractionation, cycling emotional states to deepen trance, and micro-compliances, small agreements that build subconscious buy-in. Hypnosis has positive applications, such as enhancing athletic performance, for example, crafting an alter ego for a fighter inspired by Roy Jones Jr., but also darker potential, like mind control in unethical hands. He notes that suggestibility varies. Highly suggestible individuals tend to be open and content but more manipulable. One of the most fascinating conspiracy theories that we've heard before came up during this part of the podcast. And that, of course, is the idea that Sirhan Sirhan was under some type of hypnosis or mind control when he killed RFK in 1968. Sirhan Sirhan still claims that he has no memory of the assassination. The discussion turns to technology's role in shaping perceptions, with a focus on social media's manipulative power. Hughes contends that algorithms exploit human psychology by amplifying fringe ideas, making them seem mainstream through novelty, authority, and emotional triggers. He introduces tribal confusion, where curated content distorts reality, and notes the mammalian brain, unchanged for 200,000 years, struggles to adapt to this rapid manipulation. Techniques like fractionation, alternating positive and negative stimuli, heighten suggestibility, while bots and artificial engagement further skew perceptions. This creates an environment where users are unknowingly nudged toward specific beliefs or actions. The podcast wraps up with an analysis of psychological operations using the COVID-19 pandemic as a real-world example. Hughes identifies hallmarks of a textbook, psyop silencing dissent, for example, censoring doctors questioning official narratives, and public shaming, for example, media vilifying the unvaccinated. He argues that these tactics, rooted in fear, authority, and tribal division, manipulated public opinion by suppressing credible opposition and amplifying unified messaging. This approach eroded trust and transparency, illustrating how psyops leverage group dynamics to control narratives. He urges awareness of these strategies as a defense against such influence, drawing a sobering parallel to historical propaganda efforts. Chase is a little dry, and this one is a better watch than a listen. Nonetheless, the content is rich, particularly if you haven't heard him before. The pod score: 4 out of 5 mics.